Hello, everybody. We are still here at PAX South 2020. I am Brett Yanofsky, and I'm standing here with Kieron from Larian Studios. The last time we talked to you, we were talking about Divinity Original Sin 2, the video game. Now there's a board game. How you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's going well. We're mostly showing the board game at the moment, and people are really digging it, so that's really great.
So where did this board game idea come about?
To be honest, I mean, there's a lot of us actually in the office and in the various studios that are big board game fans.
Yeah.
And for a long time, we've been playing with the idea of doing something. But as a company, we are very much a one game company. Even as we keep growing, we're always focused on one thing. And so creating a second project like this, there's always been ideas, but we've never really taken it much further than that. So we've always wanted to create something. So really, it was just about finding the right design, the right idea, the right partner that we could actually go forward with it.
I was looking through the Kickstarter. You had a very successful Kickstarter, so congratulations.
Thanks very much. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in here. Like, talk to me a bit about like the conversations you had about how far to take this game and how big you wanted it to be early on in the conceptual phases.
With Original Sin 2, choice and consequence is a big part of that game. It's about having an exciting experience of a story and an adventure and making decisions that really matter and have this sense of lasting consequence, in the sense that I've done something to impact the world that I'm living in, right? Yeah. The sense that I'm not just a spectator to this, right? And so in a lot of ways, the board game had to emulate that. Yes, it had to have great combat, it had to have interesting co-op experiences, but it also had to have a narrative that really carried it. It had to have choices that really mattered. And so they were the core components that we felt needed to go into the board game as well as to really emulate the video game.
Did you start with some of the stories that you developed with Divinity Original Sin and just carry them into this new form? Or did you write a lot of new additional content for the sake of the board game experience versus the game?
There's a lot of original content in there. With the actual full game, it's going to be the opening of DOS 2 and Fort Joy. So there's going to be a 20-hour board game experience with anywhere between 35 and 50 hours worth of content in there, depending on how you play it. But you're only going to play a 20-hour run through, and that will be Fort Joy. Now, me saying it's going to be in Fort Joy, you're going to have existing origin stories that you guys know and love, like Infinite and Low Sense, Beal, the 6 of the guys. But you're also going to have new characters. So behind me, you'll see some new characters there. We have a total of 11 origin stories for the board game when we only had 6 for the video game. And so by actually going back into Fort Joy, the Linvander guys have been working really closely with our writers. And Jan Van Dossier, who's our director of writing, has been working really closely with Dylan on the Linvander side. And I was talking to Jan before the Kickstarter launched or during it, around about that time, and he was so excited to go back to Fort Joy because this game has allowed us to expand that story and go in directions that the video game, ironically, was limited in, even though the video game was quite expansive. I mean, you've got to obviously, you can't just keep developing the same area, you know? So being able to go back and add new ideas and go in different directions that we necessarily didn't go to in the video game, it's going to be really rewarding for existing fans, but also for people who've never gone there before. Yeah.
Now, is this the first con that you guys have showcased the board game, like in person, or have you showcased it at other cons?
There was BGG Con, Board Game Geek Con, and there was also PAX Unplugged. And what was great about those two experiences was that we had a lot of people there that maybe didn't know about the video game. And one of my concerns starting this was, and a lot of the other team, to be honest, Sven especially, just was very wary of this. We don't want to create a game that's just for the fans. We want to create a game that the fans would be really happy with. Right. But this game has to be accessible. It has to be something that people can just step in and play as board game fans who are not, they don't need to know the Divinity Original Sin 2 video game to just dive in, you know?
Yeah. I really like that because what we've learned with our podcasts and doing stuff with the casual gamers, that there's a lot of board gamers and a lot of video gamers, and they sometimes, I originally thought when I first got into playing a lot of board video games, is that they kind of dissect, they cross over with one another, but there's a lot of people that board game is their thing and that's what they want. So I like that the Divinity universe is going to get out there into a whole new culture of people that haven't experienced it before.
Yeah. Sure.
So what are some things you've learned from watching people play it here at the con with this board game? This is, as far as Larian Studios goes, the first board game y'all produced.
Yeah, this is our first time doing a tabletop experience, for sure. It's an adventure game, right? So it's a co-op adventure game. There's no DM required, so you can just dive in and play. And I think what stands us apart from other adventure games of the same ilk because it's quite a large game. There's quite a few now that give you this multiple session experience, right?
Yeah.
What stands us out from this, in my opinion, is that with this experience, you're never far from the narrative. In a lot of games, you'll be like, let's do an hour of combat and then 5-10 minutes of reading a book or doing some narrative, another hour of combat back. And so there's never feels like there's a proper balance to that.
Okay.
And also sometimes, depending on how long the combat can be, you could step back in and go, where were we, what we were doing, does it really matter? Let's just go to the next thing. In this, the juice of the game, the fun of the game is also the narrative experience. And with that, the reason why I can say that is because of the mechanic of the location cards. So the location cards allow us to bridge the gap between combat and adventure.
Okay.
So when you're exploring the world, you don't know when the combat's going to trigger. You load up a new location. You could go 10, 15 minutes into the adventure exploring different things and not necessarily triggering the combat. Then a combat triggers, but it's not the main combat. So then you go back to exploring, and then you trigger another combat, or you don't. Like this. So by doing that and by having that kind of allowing the narrative to dictate the ebb and flow of when combat starts, rather than just saying we're loading a new map, so we're going to put that map down, we're going to put all the minis out, and let's fight.
Right.
There's a much more organic sense of explore, and sometimes those explorations are rewarded. So there's a situation in there in the bandit camp where you can, if you correctly explore the bandit camp, you can actually ambush the bandits. And if you don't correctly explore, spoiler, it's a demo scenario anyway. But spoiler, if you don't correctly explore and you go straight into the heart of the bandit camp, you could do that. It's a Divinity game, do what you want, but you're going to get ambushed because they're expecting people. So they've posted guards, and if you don't see those guards, you're in trouble. So the way you explore matters, and so the game just feels like a much more cohesive whole because all the parts are talking to each other, and a huge part of that is that location card mechanic.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't even remember your question. I just started going to location cards.
That's really good though. I like that. What other like unique mechanics come into play that you may not have seen? Like that sounds like it's definitely, you don't see that in many board games, but like is there anything else in this game that is new to the board game space?
I mean, so there's a kind of a storybook, which is like a pick your path idea.
Okay.
And then we have bosses in there, which we've seen before in similar ways, where the bosses have their own unique mechanics, and they do different things. But like the major thing for sure is the location cards and the way we incorporate the story. And you're never too far from the story because you read the storybook and then you're continuously reading the cards as well. Because like you mentioned, there's 1,400 cards in the game. I think it's over 600 or 700 of those. I'm giving you numbers now because I don't remember directly, but there's a huge amount of location cards in the game, at least 500 or 600, where every single one of those is unique artwork, and every single one of those has unique text on the back.
Yeah.
So as you're exploring the unique artwork, you've got unique text, and that I've never seen before in a board game. But in terms of even minor mechanics, where it's a dice-based combat system. We've got the source mechanic in there, which is a dice mitigation factor. We've got there's a white dice in there, which is a boss dice, it's an enemy dice, and it allows us to actually randomize it, not fully randomizing, but randomizing the chance of sometimes the enemy will do something different. So you can't completely choreograph everything the enemy is going to do. So if it is your first or second time playing through the game, you can't just go, I know what those guys do, and then just map it out. Because one thing we don't want to do either is have like that kind of alpha game experience and a co-op experience. So by having that in there, it's a minor thing, but it really helps bring it out.
When can we expect to see it, and where can people find out more about the board game?
With the Kickstarter, we said that it was going to be out in October. That's definitely the goal, and we're working towards that goal. But I hope our fans and people know us that we're not going to rush this game. If it needs some more time in the development cycle, we'll do that. If it gets done quicker, we'll do that. I mean, obviously, it'd be amazing to have it at Gen Con, right? So, we've got Gen Con, we've got Essen, we've got these dates that we're aiming for, but we will never sacrifice the development of the game for hitting a certain target with a certain... And we would hope that the fans understand that. But yeah, the goal is always October, but we'll see what happens with the development of the game. Because in the end, we can't even patch it. It's not a video game. If it goes out, it's out. So we want to make sure it's right,
We can find all about the board game and the updates through the Kickstarter and also on your website. Where's your website at?
Well, Divinity.game is the main website for Original Sin. But Kickstarter is the best place because There will be a late pledge manager, and that will be linked from the Kickstarter page anyway. So that's probably the best place to go.
Beautiful.
And that's where all the updates are coming in and everything else.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. We're excited about the board game. We're also excited about Baldur's Gate 3 as video game folks and everything. So I like the shirt. I appreciate that.
We're excited too.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. It's going to be a good year. I think it's going to be a great year for video games to learn all this new stuff. There's so much new stuff coming out, so many new announcements to be seen and all that stuff. So really looking forward to it. So good luck with everything, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and hope you have a great PAX.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.